Have you ever wondered why, as we get older, it feels like we're just more vulnerable to getting sick? Well, it's a really common experience, right? But the science behind it, wow, it tells this incredible story about our own bodies. And it's a story where our immune system is right at the heart of how we age.
So, here's the central puzzle we're going to unpack, and it's a real paradox. On one hand, our immune defenses are getting weaker, leaving us exposed, but at the very same time, our body gets stuck in the state of low-grade, constant inflammation. It's kind of like a castle guard falling asleep at his post, while a fire is smoldering inside the castle walls. How can both of those things be happening at once?
Well, the answer really boils down to two big ideas that are totally connected. On one side, you've got immunosenescence. Think of that as the shield, our defenses, getting weaker over time. And on the other side, you've got inflammaging. That's the smoldering fire that just never seems to go out. These two are the key players in immune aging. And as we're about to see, they feed off each other in a really destructive cycle.
Okay, so let's dig into that weakening shield first. This is the side of immune aging that probably feels most familiar to all of us, that feeling of just not being able to fight off a cold or the flu as well as we used to. The fancy scientific term for this is immunosenescence, but really, all it means is the slow, steady decline of our immune system's power as we get older. And it affects the whole shebang, both our first-line defenses, what's called the innate system, that just attacks any invader, and our highly specialized forces, the adaptive system that actually learns to recognize specific enemies. And this isn't just happening in one place. It's a breakdown on multiple levels. Our core immune organs, places like the thymus and the spleen, they actually start to shrink and just not work as well. At the same time, our physical barriers, our skin, the lining of our gut, they get weaker, more porous. The whole fortress of our body is literally developing cracks in its foundation. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of what's actually happening. The thymus, which is like the boot camp for our super important T cells, it literally shrinks away. That means we're producing way fewer naive T cells. These are the fresh recruits we absolutely need to fight off new viruses we've never seen before. Our spleen gets disorganized, and our natural killer cells, the ones that are supposed to hunt down infected cells, they just get less effective. So the bottom line, our ability to handle new threats just plummets.
Okay, so our shield is down. But remember that paradox we talked about? While our defenses are getting weaker, something else is actually ramping up. And that brings us to the other side of the story, this constant smoldering fire.
And this is inflammaging. Now, it's really important to know, this is not the helpful kind of inflammation you get when you get a cut, where your body rushes in to heal the wound. Nope, this is something totally different. This is a chronic, low-grade, body-wide inflammation that just never turns off. And it's a destructive fire that damages our own tissues and helps fuel a ton of age-related diseases. So what's fueling this fire? Well, it turns out there are a few main culprits fanning the flames. First, we have these things called senescent cells, or zombie cells. They're old cells that just refuse to die. Second, you have metabolic problems like insulin resistance. And third, an imbalanced gut microbiome. You put those three together, and it's like pouring gasoline on the inflammatory fire. Okay, let's walk through how this actually works. First, these zombie cells start to build up. They won't die, and instead they just sit there pumping out this toxic cocktail of inflammatory signals. It's called the SASP. Think of the SASP as a fire alarm that is just stuck on, constantly blaring and creating inflammation. Then you add in metabolic problems, which also release their own inflammatory triggers, and it all leads to that persistent, damaging fire that's linked to everything from heart disease to Alzheimer's. And this is where you get this really nasty feedback loop. The weak shield from immunosenescence means we can't clear out these zombie cells or other pathogens effectively. This lets the smoldering fire of inflammaging get bigger and bigger, and that fire in turn damages our immune system even more. It's a truly destructive cycle. Now, I know this all sounds pretty grim, but here's where the story takes a really hopeful turn, because by understanding this cycle, scientists are now figuring out exactly how to break it. The amazing news is we are absolutely not helpless here. Scientists are developing a whole new field of therapies designed not just to treat the symptoms of old age, but to actually target the aging process itself by rebalancing our immune system. And we're not just talking about one magic bullet here. We're talking about a whole new toolbox of therapies. Scientists are coming up with strategies to fight immune aging from every possible angle. from rejuvenating our immune organs like the thymus, to directly getting rid of those zombie cells, to using really targeted anti-inflammatory drugs. It's a full-on, multi-pronged attack.
So let's check out one of these strategies, rebuilding the T-cell barracks. Scientists are actually finding ways to rejuvenate the thymus. They're using things like growth factors, boosting key genes that act as a master builder for the thymus, and even bioengineering brand new thymic tissue from scratch. The whole idea is to get that T-cell production factory back online and churning out fresh recruits again.
So what about that smoldering fire? Well, that's where something called senolytic therapy comes in. And really, this is all about taking out the trash. The goal is to selectively find and destroy those zombie cells. Scientists are doing this with drugs like fisetin, which is a natural compound you can find in strawberries, and they're even reprogramming our own immune cells to go hunt them down. By getting rid of the source of all that inflammatory gunk, they can turn down the heat on chronic inflammation.
And look, this isn't just a cool idea in a lab, it's actually working in people. This quote shows that in a real clinical trial, when researchers used drugs that slow down a key aging pathway in our cells, they were able to significantly reduce infections in older adults. It's a fantastic real-world sign that boosting the aged immune system is totally possible.
So what does all this mean for the big picture, for the future of how we age? Well, we're starting to move beyond just treating one disease at a time and thinking about how to rebalance the entire system.
You know, the ultimate goal here isn't to just crank our immune system up to 11 or completely shut down inflammation, because inflammation is actually really important in the right situations. The real key is balance. It's all about restoring our immune system to a healthy, resilient, and well-regulated state. This isn't just about a longer lifespan. It's about a longer health span, more years of our life lived in good health.
And you can really see this two-pronged attack in action here. On one side, you have therapies to boost our weakened response. On the other side, you've got ways to reduce that chronic, damaging inflammation. And what's really cool is that some therapies, like those senolytics we talked about, they're like a 2-for-1 deal. They actually help on both sides of the problem.
And this is the really critical takeaway. We're talking about a fundamental shift in medicine here. This isn't just about getting fewer colds when you're older. This is about intervening in one of the core engines of aging itself. Learning how to control our immune system could be a key to controlling how we age, period.
And that leaves us with a really powerful final thought. As we get better and better at fine-tuning this delicate immune balance, are we on the edge of a future where our later years aren't just longer, but are actually lived with health, with resilience, and with vitality? The science is starting to suggest that the key might just be hidden inside our own immune system.